welcome back to Deposit That Season 3 kickoff. We start each episode with an intro song, and I couldn't think of a better intro song than this. So for anyone that's not liking curse words, I'm sorry, this is what it is. It's $3.1 million plus for a Tom Brady rookie card. Walk us through how you were able to get that type of number on a Tom Brady rookie card.
Well, a couple months earlier, we got $2.25 million for one that was in less grade. So when that was in the process of selling, we were approached by the consignor of the Beckett 9 and realized that we were getting more than anybody else and put it in the auction and with no reserve, which is a smart idea. You know, you let the buyers decide.
Sure.
And then, you know, we were all over ESPN and NBC and Yahoo Sports, and Tom Brady talked about the first one we sold for him. So it was huge. And $2.25 million for a card.
Massive.
It was insane. Yeah. And that card was worth $250,000 before Brady won the Super Bowl. So
Massive.
It was insane. So when he talked about it on Good Morning,
that was worth $20,000.
yeah, it was absolutely crazy. $2.25 million right after the Super Bowl. And then, just got publicity and put it all over our website and social media and spread the word, and the right people saw it.
A buyer of that card most likely is never selling that, right? Realistically, it's something you pass down generation to generation unless someone offers you, $10 million?
They could. I mean, who knows if Brady wins another Super Bowl and his stuff blows up again, it could be worth $5 to $10 million.
Interesting. So tell everyone who you are, what you do, who you work with, who you work for, and a little bit about your business model.
My name is Jordan Gilroy. I am the Director of Acquisitions for Leland's Auctions. We put together between 4 and 6 major sports auctions a year, mix of memorabilia, cards, autographs, a little bit of pop culture and Americana, and we just sell the highest end material to the clients around the world.
So it's a little bit better deal on eBay, I'm assuming?
Yeah,
right.
a little bit more secure. Yeah, no returns, no my son accidentally hit my computer and bid on the card, I want to cancel it.
Or John's broke his leg and I'm now returning all the cards I bought for the past 30 days.
Exactly.
None of that goes on with you, right?
No excuses.
And I didn't know this, but you actually said you're the number one sports or the longest standing sports auction house, right?
Yeah, since the early 80s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you guys publicly owned, privately owned?
Private.
Privately owned?
Yeah.
Interesting. So talk to us a little bit about the market we're seeing right now, and I'll build the story up and you bring it to the climax. So we saw sports cards really come onto the scene 2019, 2020, early before the pandemic. And then it was kind of perfect timing where The Last Dance, Chicago Bulls, Netflix, I think it was Netflix or whatever, came on the scene, and then you saw crazy cards just start exploding with the combination of that Instagram account, Slab Stocks, I believe it is, right? Slab Stocks?
Yeah.
Start pumping out ideas and theories, and everyone and their mother got into sports cards, and then quarantine, no one had anything else to do but search eBay and make predictions on the next Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, for example. Where are we at in today's market?
Right now, it is pretty much focusing on the highest of end cards. So like hundreds of thousands, players that are retired, let's say Jordan, Kobe, Ruth, Gehrig, those kind of guys. Obviously, the guys playing are popular, but there is also a small amount of risk with people playing right now. Other than Brady and Mahomes and in basketball, Luka and Trey and Giannis, speculation and trying to buy the next big thing isn't the smartest idea anymore. It's pretty much going with the sure thing and trusting the market to go up over time.
So it's like buying an Apple stock, for example. Like if you want to be conservative, buy Apple, buy Facebook, whatever, right? Amazon, Google.
Yeah.
Same thing. So we're seeing the same thing where, I'm not going to say flight to safety, but people are making those sure bets rather than buying those penny stocks, which are the guy that just got drafted and hopefully might be, again, the next Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Now, the buyers that are in your pool that's paying even $100,000 for a card, right? So $100,000 to that almost $2 million card. What type of guys are these? What type of girls are these? Are they institutions? Are they private, high net worth individuals? Are they sports enthusiasts? Are they collectors? What are they? Like, what makes up that demographic?
A little bit of everything. So there are, let's say, investors, people that love collecting, people that want to put money into a high-end asset and put it away for 5 years and see what happens because they have the money to do so. And then there are a lot of people now that are just excited to be involved and getting in case breaks and spending $100 and possibly getting a card worth $500,000.
So by the way, shout out to Platinum Card Breaks. I've been breaking with them since I've been breaking with them since I broke my ankle back in August 2018. From there, I obviously got other guys, G1 Cards, Wolf Card Breaks. Those are my three main guys. But Platinum's state of the art, first class. I mean, look, they're filling $20,000-$30,000 breaks like it's $10.
Yeah.
So shout out to DG, everyone over at the Platinum family. They sponsored today's episode, just so you know. I put it on there. I owe them a lot. They got me through probably the toughest time in my life. I also spent a fortune with them, but they got me through it. They gave me the capability of joining the community, and we haven't looked back since. So shout out to them. So walk us through that process and the evolution of that. So somebody gets into a card break. They spend $200 on a break and hit a $50,000 card. What do? Do you sell it immediately on eBay? Do you send it in for express grading? Do you put it in your auction house raw? Like, what do you do?
Sending for grading is definitely the best thing to do in the beginning, and then put it into an auction. So, for example, we just sold a LeBron James logo man for $190,000 2 auctions ago in April, and the person won it in a case break, and he spent, I think, $150 or $200.
Wow.
So we got it graded for him. It came back a BGS 9.5 because it was right out of the pack, and it sold for almost $200,000.
So I just got ahead real quick. Okay, so again, I go through spurts. Like, depends on what's going on in my life. Obviously, timing of the year, quarantine, weather. Obviously, I spend more time on my phone breaking in the winter because you can't go outside. You can't go to the beach, whatever, right? So, like, Select Football just comes out, Prism comes out, all these things come out at once, higher end breaks, right? So I spent a couple $1,000s on breaking Prism. On day one of break, I hit a gold James Weissman Prism, right? Wound up selling it to a private buyer for $17,500 that day. So I'm like, all right, well, I think at that point I'd spent like $1,000, let's say. So now I'm up 16.5. Put some money away, took some additional of that profit proceeds, and put it into Select. That night I hit a Herbert RPA at a Select FOTL. Game changing, right? Awesome. Yeah. Now I'm a Herbert fan. I'm a quarterback fan in general. So I stashed that away. Now I still got money left to play with. But now I'm up, let's just call it 20,000 realistically, right? Between the Weissman and that. I mean, probably more, but let's be conservative. So I send that into grading immediately, like at 9.5, 10. It's perfect, right?
Pumped. Yeah, that's awesome.
You're not getting better. You're probably not getting a 10-10, right? From
that's tough.
So now I go to Platinum. So I hit that Herbert on G1 cards. I go to Platinum, and on release day, Select came out with like the Hybrid, H2 I think it was called. I hit an out of 10 Herbert RPA. I'm like, this is crazy.
That's
like,
insane.
Up about in a matter of 3 days, right? This is crazy.
People don't even get that in their entire life.
Now again, don't forget, I've had months where I've dumped a lot of money. I haven't hit shit. I think in like my last $1,000 spent, I'm over. Like, I haven't hit anything. I think I hit a Chris Middleton. Even worse, a Chris Humphreys auto.
Oh yeah, that is.
Someone's got to pay. I got to pay someone to take the card, right? That's how dog shit it is. So with this particular card, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's out of 10. It's gold, beautiful patch, everything. I send it into Beckett. Guess what the grade came back at?
7.5.
A 5 out of 10.
How? That's crazy.
I didn't even know you get a 5, right? I looked at the card 100 times. It literally went from Pack to D's Hands, who breaks for Platt, right? He's one of the owners, to a top loader to Beckett. A 5 out of 10. So I'm like, I don't even know. First of all, I'm not the guy that crack cards. Like, that's not me. Like, that's the grade. It is what it is. If there's a flaw with it, it is what it is. But like, I don't know what to do with it. I put it in a drawer in my house, graded as a 5, because like, look, this card realistically to 10 could be a $30,000 card. Ballpark, right? It's the 10 RPA, like on card.
Yeah, it's
legit.
a good one.
It's just a Select, right? It's a good product. But it being a 5 out of 10, is there even a market for that?
Yeah, I mean, people sometimes crack those out and just put them in authentic only holders and then just grade the autograph.
Yeah.
And then it's just up to you to be honest when you sell it to someone and say, hey, there's a scratch in the back or there's a corner ding or something. But it's more attractive to see the authentic and the auto 10 grade than
a 5.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? So like, I forget what it says, but it's like it says like 5 under it. It says like good condition. Wait, hold on. Like good?
I don't think that's that's crazy.
Well, I tell you, I thought it was a joke. I'm being honest with you, right? Because again, I only send like I said, good cards in, right? I've been doing this now for 3 years, but like I'm not an expert in cards, but I know enough more than your average person. Like, I don't just send dog shit in to be graded. I actually inspect it. Like I put lighting. I do all the things that somebody who knows what they're doing would do.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, to this day, I can't. And it said surface, by the way, 5 surface, whatever. I think it was like a 3 surface, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I can't see anything with the visible naked eye, and that's what makes it more frustrating, obviously. You know.
Yeah, with the 3 surface, that kind of should mean it's like a
Like a
scratch
bullet hole
that's
in it.
obvious.
Like
Yeah.
a bullet hole, like realistically, you know.
Yeah.
So how important when selling a higher end card is the grade?
Extremely important. And for example, that Brady card, a BGS 9 is over $3 million. 8.5 that we sold, 0.5 lower, was almost $1 million less. So every point counts.
So is there like an overall saying, like 30% less, 50% less, 100% less? Like what is that kind of from a 10 to a 9.5 to a 9? Walk everybody through that.
For like standard cards, let's say rookie cards and stuff that's not worth 6 figures, let's say if a PSA 9 sold for $5,000, you could expect the PSA 10 version to be double.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's almost a 50% fall off from a 10 grade, which is perfect, to a 9, which is almost perfect.
I'd say in most cards, yeah. If a 9 is 2,500, you could say 5,000 for a 10, yeah.
Now we've seen, everyone's like, oh, the card market collapsed. The card market collapsed. Well, a $3.1 million sale clearly isn't a collapse, right? We've seen a segment of the card market collapse recently. We said some cards are down almost 1,000% realistically, right?
So
what do you attribute that to?
I would say pop reports, people realizing that there are thousands of this one
For
card.
those that don't know, pop report means population report, the total existence of a card in a certain grade. For those that don't know, like go to psapopreport.com, I think it is, right? Or PSA Pop.
It's if you want to just Google the card, I
Google
guess, and do
PSA
just
pop
the
report.
PSA pop report, yeah.
So now people are becoming more aware of what's actually available in the market.
Yeah, also a lot of them have been selling on eBay, so when the market floods, that's not a good thing because then everyone in the world sells it and the buyers are like, which one do I pick? And you don't want them to think. You want them to all be on, focused on one card, not focused on deciding between 200 of the same thing.
So in your opinion, if you're selling, right, let's just say $1,000 card, right? What would be your strategy to somebody selling $1,000 card right now that's not overpopulated, but it's also not something that's like a one of one or an exclusive card? Like, do you list it on auction or do you list it at like a buy now price?
I would probably say buy it now because you can make the price up and it's up to you what it sells for.
Sure.
In auction, you never know what's going to happen. If you don't have a great scanner, if you don't know how to do the correct title, sometimes an item can slip away and sell for 75% of value, and then that's not that great.
Interesting.
So it's also timing. I mean, if you end the card on a Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m.,
Right.
that's not as good as Sunday night at 9 p.m.
Is that the ideal time to end an auction, Sunday night?
Yeah.
Really?
Because
Theoretically,
people are home,
interesting.
they're getting back to the swing of things from the weekend. Not much goes on Sunday nights, so.
So that's like probably the most $1 million advice you can give somebody that's selling stuff on eBay, especially like sports cards, is like, I'm guessing it's a window between like 8 and 11 p.m. because of the California time and everything else.
Yeah, I'd say 8 and 11, yeah.
So like, those are the little things that everyone messes up on. I'll never forget. Like, look, everyone's like owning a house. My house should sell for X. This card is worth $1,000, and then you put it up at auction and it sells for $600, and you're like, damn. I got 40% less than what the last comp sold for. Like, why did my card sell for that much less? But if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and also another important thing is managing like reality and expectations. Some people go to eBay sold listings and then just look at the highest price from 3 months ago for $5,000 and don't look at the recent one that just
Super
went for
Bowl day,
Yeah.
Braves broke records, hot topic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if let's say 3 of them sell in the last week, they will always take the high price.
Always.
So if it's 1,000, 800, and 700, they say, oh, it's worth 1,000. So, I mean, there's so many things that go into it. If it's a Beckett 9, it could be 1,000 for a true 9 with all 9 subs.
Sure.
Or it could be 800 for a 9 that just barely got a 9. So subgrades matter. The better subgrades obviously means a higher price, but managing reality and expectations is also very key because you could hold on to a card that's overvalued for so long because you think it's worth more than it is.
So right now, with what you're saying from an opportunity standpoint, let's talk about the person that either wants to get into cards or looks to invest in cards for obviously, hopefully, a fruitful investment. Where do you see the market right now from an investment standpoint? Is it in breaks? Is it in buying singles? Is it in buying a certain player? Is it in buying a certain grade from a grading company? Where do you see an opportunity for people right now?
I would say football. My
You do?
gut's telling me
Really?
is the next big thing.
Football.
Yeah, the football season for cards,
Massive.
it's amazing because it's one game a week. So
Yeah.
there's 6 days of hype and speculation in between games.
Interesting.
And like in basketball, you could put up 50 points on Monday night.
Yeah.
Everyone buys the cards for triple.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday you put up 10 points and people forget about you. But in football, it's like, if you have a huge game on a Sunday, 6 days of real sales will happen.
Sure.
And then week 2, if you screw up, everyone's like,
Back on the
I
reality.
have this. Oh, they want him to do well week 3
So
because
buy
they
more.
put the money in. They're like, oh, I just spent $5,000 on this guy. Let's give him another
So
shot.
you're actually seeing people dollar cost average and buy the same card at a cheaper price point just to protect their investment, I guess? Or
Sometimes, yeah. But in football, it's like the quarterback. Like history has shown us, the quarterbacks are worth so much money.
Sure.
Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Mahomes. So right now, it seems like buying Brady and Mahomes is a good thing because it's the sure thing.
Yeah.
And one of them is probably going to go pretty far
Yeah.
in the playoffs or
odds
win.
are.
Yeah. So that is what I'd probably focus on. Also,
Even spending, again, for example, $15,000 on a Mahomes Prism Silver rookie, like PSA 10, you would say, okay, that's kind of a safe bet right now?
if it's a 10, yeah.
Yeah.
The 9s and lower I probably wouldn't do.
Yeah.
You just got to think of like liquidity and how many people will buy it
Right.
once it goes up.
Different buyer pool.
Yeah, a 10 is completely different than a 9, even though it's only one
10's
grade
like buying
away.
a Bentley.
Yeah, I'd also buy vintage baseball cards.
You think they'll always be there, American history, like...
Yeah, Ruth, Mantle, Gehrig,
Can't go wrong
DiMaggio.
with it.
Yeah, they're all deceased. Their values can really just go up because it's not like they're going to get a
It's
DUI
that's
or
the
break.
final.
Yeah, they're not going to break their ankle
Right.
and tear their ACL and be done forever. They are solidified in history.
Is there a certain demographic of like New York buyers or California buyers or Texas buyers, for example, where the higher end cards Florida usually sell to, like from an income wealth standpoint? Like, do you see like, wow, all these big Manhattan buyers are buying sports cards, or like, hey, we're in Boca Raton, Florida, and we just shipped a $3.1 million card there. Are you seeing that, or is it kind of all over?
I would say California, Florida, New York is pretty solid, but not as big as those other two.
I heard the Asian market for basketball cards is like insane. Like,
Oh,
people
yeah.
buy LeBron like
Huge.
clockwork, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's because it's global, and out there, I don't like LeBron. You watch the documentary of Michael Jordan. He went all over the place, and whenever he gets to a mall, it's like the mall is completely filled because they want to see him,
Sure.
and they don't go there often.
Sure.
So like when they go there for one time, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, let's say if the Pope came to New York City.
Everyone's going.
Yeah, it'd be huge.
Gotcha. So talk about this Kobe real quick, right? Obviously, we saw. By the way, I sold, and I'm such a jackass. I sold. My friend said, think about it. Kobe's gonna sign 100 products a year, 1,000 autos, this and that. I sold like a flawless, like 2014 to 15 on-card auto for like $800 back in 2018. But again, $800 at the time, like that breaks for so much less. Like it made sense. It got me into like 10 more breaks, right? Plus, I was like, oh, that makes sense, right? He'll be signing forever, and then obviously everything tragically happened. What do you think Kobe's value is right now? I mean, he's one of those guys, kind of like a Mantle, Ruth Gehrig, where like he's kind of
Sure
arguably
thing.
top
Yeah.
1.5 players in NBA history forever, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, he is way up there. It's always Kobe, LeBron, Jordan. And it's probably always going to be that unless someone else comes in
Which is tough.
who, I mean, LeBron was out of high school that huge.
Right.
Kobe skipped high school.
Yeah.
Kobe skipped college. I mean, it's just insane. But then we had his Hall of Fame induction, and that increased prices for a short amount of time. And now things are kind of getting back to reality in some ways.
Yeah, down like 40% off the highs I saw. Give or
Yeah.
take. Some cards, obviously, not everyone, but yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to be a good long-term thing, though. Like, if you see the graphs of cards, it's like always it goes up, and then it corrects itself, but doesn't go all the way down, and then
Sure.
it goes up. And
Sure.
so
It's healthy.
at some point, it will go back up. It might not be in 6 months. It might not be in a year. but it will. It's just how the market goes. And you can't really lose. I mean, if anything, now I guess is a good time to buy it because prices are
Sure.
going down a little
Sure.
bit. But luckily, Kobe, LeBron, and Jordan, those guys aren't going down as much as lesser players.
It's just crazy. So I saw, and I'm part of those like high roller Facebook groups. You know, people posting stuff, this and that. And I saw it today. I sent it to my friend. I said, look, someone sold an NTRPA Trae Young for 55,000. The last two sold on Golden, actually, supposedly. This is what don't if you fact check this. This is what I saw. So I'm not saying this is true. The last two comps were like 55,000. This kid posted it like, oh, I'll just take 40,000 for this. Now it's big money, obviously, 55,000, 40,000. Last year sold for 22,000, so you're still up. So I said, is it me or like could something be off with this card, right? Because if the last two comps are 55,000, I get it, Trey just rolled his ankle, but like he's one of the best young talents in the NBA. Let's call a spade, right?
Yeah.
So why would you look to discount this card? Was that 30%? Yeah, call it 25, 27%. Like they're still in the playoff hunt, right? They're still running, right? They might be going to game 7 or 6. They might be eliminated, but why would you give a $15,000 discount? He's like, oh, he just rolled his ankle. He's hurt. He's out. They're probably going to lose to the Bucks. I'm like, okay, well, there's next season starts in like 5 months, right? Or 4 months. Talk about like altering cards, fake cards, and when you see something suspicious like that, I'm not saying it is this card in particular, but like, what are you seeing on your end with high cards? Are you seeing a lot of fake cards?
Not really, because in order to sell a card now that's high end, it has to be graded. So
I've seen cards that have fake grades though, right?
yeah, it is tough to see. I mean, especially with like let's say vintage baseball cards and trimming, it's very difficult. I mean, for me personally, I can't really say, oh yeah, this 52 mantle is trimmed. It shouldn't be real. I kind of just like go with my gut. And
Of the person selling it?
it's a mix. Yeah, sometimes it's that. I mean, if someone reaches out to me on Facebook or Instagram and I've never talked to them before, they have 5 followers, 0 profile picture, and they say, I'll sell you this PSA 5 Mantle rookie card for $3,000. It's obviously a red flag.
Gotcha.
But
you
yeah,
also have desperation of people that just want a cash grab,
Yeah, like that Trae Young. I mean, let's say it's a 18-year-old kid who spent $3,000 on it and wants to cash out before he thinks they're going to lose and doesn't want to wait 4 or 5 years.
So you have to go back to 22,000.
Exactly, yeah, and they could use that money to buy a car, college, anything.
Yeah, sure.
So there are people that are willing to sell something for less than market value because of outside factors. But back to the, let's say, fake and altered cards, it's good that we know a lot of people that know the information and we can ask them to check because we don't know all the answers.
Of course, that's not your specialty.
Yeah, I mean, we know a lot, but it's impossible to know everything about every sport, every card. Now, while we do, I would say, 95, 98%, there's always those little things out there that no one knows except for like 2 people.
Sure.
So we fact check through good sources sometimes and just make sure that we're selling the right stuff because we don't want to sell anything. We don't want to be blasted in forums saying Leland's is selling a trimmed card. Yeah.
Well, card porn, I don't follow them. My friend always sends me the post from them. I should probably follow them because I'm shouting them out. Hopefully, they'll send me some money for shouting them out. It's at card porn, I believe. Like fake patches. Like, hey, I'll give you an example. Like LeBron, 3 of 10. Here's the patch, and then like it sells 3 years later. It's like, whoa, that patch is nasty. Oh wait, that card sold for X. Look, did somebody go in and change that patch? Like.
People do, yeah. I mean, that LeBron, I think you're talking about that LeBron James limited logo.
Recently, I saw them post it.
Well, I guess it's good that people keep pictures for almost 20 years.
Nothing flies today, right?
Yeah, and those buyers are very meticulous.
Are
so
they?
they have those photos. They have photos of cards that haven't been seen in 20 years. They don't put them out on Photo Bucket or Instagram or anything, but they have them for their records. And it's good to know that people have those records and can, call these people out.
Sure.
Because that LeBron card, I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's brutal.
Real money.
Yeah. It's not the best, but it's tough unless you know or have that photo of that card from 20 years ago. I mean, it's kind of impossible to know. I mean, I didn't know until I saw that post.
Let me ask you this question. So obviously, PSA was backed up, shut down. I've had bulk orders in from September. Same thing with Beckett. They're like next month. Horrible, right? let's say somebody submitted 600 cards to PSA, cheaper cards, and the grades are starting to come back. And their goal was to take those cards and flip it and make money. What do you recommend somebody doing right now with that inventory? Is it listing it one by one? Is it selling it as a bulk lot? What do you recommend somebody doing that saw their cards fall off, 6 to 8 times what they thought they were going to make on?
If you want to milk it for all it's worth and you don't mind spending the time to scan and write up and ship out all those cards, then by all means they could sell each card individually. But if they're bitter about it and they just want to, wipe their hands of it, you could just sell it all to someone. There are a million people that would buy 600 graded cards right now. Yeah.
So there are bulk buyers out there. I mean,
yeah.
If you send 600 cards in, let's just say he got it at, let's call it $20 an average grade per card. Think about the number. It's $12,000 just in grading.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'm like, dude, the grades are worth more than the cards right now, unfortunately, So you would actually go to like someone like yourself? Like, is that something you would take on, like a bulk, I'm going to say cheaper end order, or is that not really for you?
That wouldn't be for us because we don't do much of the quantity eBay selling.
Gotcha.
There are people like dealers that have eBay pages of 30,000 feedback, and they would pay more than, let's say, us because they can go to eBay and milk all these cards individually and spend the time because they have a staff like only doing that. We pretty much focus more on high dollar auctions and private sales. So
what's the minimum dollar value you would want to take on in a perfect world?
About 1,500.
Oh, so you go that low. I say, well, I mean, again, for a card world, that's 3.1 million, 1,500 is a little bit different, obviously. So 1,500 is the minimum kind of threshold for you.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that number, or is this kind of where you guys are at overall?
Well, we factor it costs X amount of dollars, costs overall like labor and producing a catalog and everyone's salary and rent, everything mixed together.
Gotcha.
It costs X amount of dollars to put an item into an auction. So factoring the commission that we would make on a $1,500 card, that's where we start to make the profit.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So now, to be clear, what are your commission thresholds, right? So like, is it up to a certain amount? Is it a flat fee? Is it if we hit a certain number, you don't pay above and beyond? Break down to me what your guys' cost is, so people that are listening can say, hey, I have this Mantle rookie I'm thinking about selling. I know it just sold for $1 million. If they take 20%, I'll get $800,000. Can you break that down for us?
So standard is pretty much 15% for anything that's $1,500 or more.
Of the final sale price?
Of the hammer price.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the higher you go, the more flexibility there is.
Sure.
With $1 million card, that's the most flexibility we could have. Sometimes, I don't know if it's good to say this, but sometimes we give a portion of the buyer's premium to the seller if it's something that we need and it's that much and it's going to get us exposure and it's worth $1 million.
Give us an example of that. Just walk me through an example.
So let's say if there's a card, a modern card, and there's so much competition now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know that they're probably talking to other people. And sometimes instead of saying, oh, we're 15% and trying to get it for $1 million card.
$1.50.
Yeah, I mean, if I say 15% for $1 million card, I might not even get a call back.
Right.
Because other people might just say 5%, 0%, or even
$10,000.
better.
Pay me
Yeah.
$10,000, we're good.
Yeah. So I like to just get right to it and
Yep.
don't waste time.
Yep.
And there's flexibility on expensive stuff. Yeah, because I know there are a lot of options. And we want to sell as much as possible for our buyers and sellers. So there is flexibility once you get to the really expensive stuff.
What's the process of somebody that's sitting at their house right now or going to watch this eventually on YouTube or who knows, however they find this, right? And they're like, yeah, my dad passed away. He left me these box of cards from 1950s and 60s. I know nothing about cards. I don't have time to go through eBay. My wife's breaking my balls on getting these out of the house because they're clutter, right? Do they just contact you and say, hey, Jordan, saw you on this podcast. I have these old cards I was given. Do you want them? Do you want to meet up? Can you value them for me? Walk me through, in a perfect world, how the consumer would reach out to you or contact you directly, and then the process that follows that. What do you typically do?
In an ideal world, the consignor will trust us like 100% to work in their best interest. So calling us or emailing us or reaching out on social media, if they say, I have these cards, I know you guys will handle them properly and correctly, I would like to consign them, then once I realize they have the trust in us, then that's when I just start to go to town and work for them as hard as possible. So it's not like I'm going to work hard less for someone that doesn't trust us, but I understand that people have questions and they don't just hand over $50,000 cards without knowing who we are. But yeah, once in an ideal world, someone will say, I want to give this to you. Here it is. Sell it for me when it goes up. But realistically, that doesn't happen too much. But with a big collection, the most important thing to know is that we are not dealers looking to tell you what's wrong with your cards to make money. We want everything to be a PSA 10 or the highest grade possible because we make more money when you make more money.
We win together.
Exactly. So you don't have to think, oh, are they trying to like pull one on me? Because we both want the stuff to sell for as much as possible.
Right. It's all public auction too, right? Like you put it out there, everyone sees what the final price is. Right?
Yeah, we don't want to sell a $200,000 card for $100,000. That's terrible.
Now, do you guys also buy for yourselves? Meaning, like, let's say somebody says, "Look, I have this card here. I only want 10 grand for it. Just give me 10 grand. I don't care if you sell it for $1 million." Because you have that too. I have people reach out to me all the time. Like, they're like, "Oh, I see you're big into sports cards." I'm like, look. I'm not really big into sports cards as much as I am like into sports and investments, right? Yeah. Like, I could care less about sports cards other than the 3 Mahomes I have, because obviously, like, they're important. I bought them at a critical time in my life. I was right on my first gut instinct, and they're my sons, right? Like, I bought them for my son, right? So
which is good, because if they're for you, you might have sold them.
Well, I sold one of them, right? It's just to cover. Again, 17 times what I have invested into all. I'm going to take that all day long. It's just smart, right? You have people that are like, "Hey, I know you have sports cards. I'll sell you these for $2 grand. I don't care what you make on them. Just like get them out, 82 grand." Do you do that as well? Like, would you buy cards and then relist them or resell them or hold them as an investment? How does that work?
If we can make money on it, we will buy it. I mean, if someone walked up, gave us a card and was like, this card, like a Brady Contenders card. If someone gave us 8.5 or a 9 and said, "Oh, it's worth $2 to $3 million. I'll sell it for $1 million." Boom, we'll pay him that day. I mean, we could pay for pretty much any card we need. We also have buyers that will buy privately. So if someone has $1 million card, it might not be us buying. It might be this guy buying it. So we would broker it for them.
So somebody can come to you and say, "Hey, Jordan, look, I'm really looking for this card. If it ever comes across your desk, you hear about it, let me know. I'll buy it up to X amount of dollars."
Yeah, I have a spreadsheet of people and what they're looking for. So whenever someone comes to me and says, "I have this for sale," I just go to the spreadsheet, see who wants it, and then I just talk to all of them.
How many sales on average happen per month like that?
Private sales, you mean?
Of like worthiness to talk about. I'm not talking about like $1,000 card. I'm talking about like $100,000 card, for example.
It's not as frequent as the auctions that we put out.
Yeah.
It's only because sometimes people think they can get a better deal in an auction, and then they spend more money.
Sure.
But they happen. Like, it's pretty frequent, but we'd obviously like a lot more, you know?
So again, somebody, I told you about my friend that bought the Steph Curry BGS 1010, right? For $450,000, which is insane. Does a guy like that come to you and say, "Hey, have this card, here's what I paid for it, here's what I need on it"? Or, "Hey, here's the number I want on it"? Like, what happens in the case of obviously dealing with almost a $500,000 card? What's the typical exchange?
So let's say, for example, they texted me in 20 minutes and said that. I would probably say, "What do you need for it?" They would let me know. If it's too high, then I'd probably say hold on to it a little longer because no one's going to buy it at that price. Sure. And that kind of card, I don't know if there's been a more recent public sale. So it could be up a little, it could be down a little. But I would probably reach out to a few people and get their opinion on value. And if it's low enough, I mean, we could buy it, we could sell it to someone else. We can say, "Hey, we'll make this one of the featured lots in our next auction, make it in the top 10 lots, put you on the cover of our website and cover the catalog, offer you the works."
Gotcha.
But there are a lot of options.
Do you offer any type of like incentive or referral fees for people that come in or like refer you to buyers or sellers or lots or anything like that? Like, again, someone brings you, "Hey, my mom wants to sell this lot here." You wind up saying, "Wow, this is $1 million lot." Like, is that something you work out with somebody? Do you give them a piece potentially? Like, what is that? Because obviously everyone cares. Look, we're in New York and New Jersey mostly, right? Everyone only cares about themselves. So what's somebody gonna have incentive other than, oh yeah, great, you help my mom make $1 million, I got nothing for referring it. Do you have anything like that exists? A loyalty program, a referral program?
There's not so much a program just because not everybody asks for it initially.
Right.
So if they do ask, depending on the deal, like let's say if a son says, my mom has a $5,000 card,
Right.
at that level, the margins that we make is not, the best,
Buy
but
lunch.
yeah, if it's, a $100,000 card or if you know people that will continue to consign cards and this isn't just a one-off, then we can set up like a percentage and they will know in their head, hey, I get X percent of whatever I get to Leland's.
Sure.
Now I'm going to work 10 times harder because it's guaranteed money.
They're essentially an extension of you, like running around doing the legwork. The only reason why I say that is because I was in the Bronx for 8 years. If you didn't know that, if you do know that, whatever. A lot of my old timers in the Bronx, I mean, you're in the Bronx, you're in the Yankees, odds are your family's passed down massive baseball collections. Like, I know guys that have cards that are like, I think I messaged you one time. Like,
yeah, 50, yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't even know what to do with this, This is like, you just handed me, but again, people trust me because obviously I've dealt with multi-millions of dollars for them, right? So like, their card collection was kind of unheard of. It was their hobby until it turned into like potentially their retirement. So a lot of people that listen that are gonna be from the Bronx are like, yeah, you know what, my dad, my uncle, whoever gave me these cards of Ruth, Mantle, Gehrig, and so on and so forth. So that's the reason why I asked that. And again, coming from knowing the Bronx, they're all gonna say, well, what do I get for this? So that's why I like putting that out there, because if they're listening, okay, bring them to the table, right? Now, do you sit down with them and go over the collection with them face to face, or how does that work?
Ideally, if they're contacting us on the phone or an email, I'd like to get a feel for what they have first. Gotcha. Because if someone says, I have 100,000 or 100,000 cards, can you come check them out? Yeah. It wouldn't be the ideal scenario to drive to the Bronx and then they have 1990s cards and then I have to like sit there and break the bad news to them. Sure. So ideally, what we like to do is pretty much have a set, like it's almost like a pickup situation. Sure. You talk to someone, you talk about the terms, and once you agree to the terms, you pick it up.
Gotcha.
But if they don't know what they have, I'll ask for some pictures of what they think the best items are. And if it's good, then I will go and say, if the stuff is like this good stuff, you have a huge collection, it's worth a lot of money. Worst case scenario, those things are still good, everything else is junk, we would still sell the good stuff. But we do like to know exactly what we're getting ourselves into.
Interesting. So where do you see your company and yourself going over the upcoming years? Like obviously it's going to continue to get hot. If the market turns at all, I'm expecting more inventory to hit your desk. People are going to need capital. Where do you see yourself growing to?
Ideally, more auctions. Yeah. And that would be a huge thing because there are so many more cards being produced, more boxes, and people want to sell. And we want to sell it for them because we make more money. Right. So why wouldn't we want to have more auctions to make more money throughout the year and just like have our name be in people's minds much more consistently? Because if you have an auction 3 or 4 times a year, it's like, all right, those little spurts. Right. But when you have an auction once a month, it's like, that just sold. They're having another auction in 2 weeks. That just sold. Another auction starting. And people just like see us as an outlet. They don't even have to call us and say, what is this worth, the percentage, yada, yada. They just send it, and then we sell it for them. Now, there will be a minimum. Like, we wouldn't just want people randomly sending us cards that are worth $5. Yeah. But if people just send us $5,000 cards without us asking, I mean, in an ideal world, that'd be great.
So now, do you only sell graded cards, or do you actually sell raw cards as well? Or is it more
we would sell raw cards if it's one of these, like, flawless encased cards. Gotcha. We like to sell those. But if it's a raw, like, vintage card, then it definitely should be graded just because we don't want to leave money on the table.
And vice versa. Right.
Yeah, and also we have to check authenticity. So if you look at a 52 Mantle and it looks perfect, like the edges are razor sharp, it could be an 8 or it could be trimmed. So that's $0 or $1 million.
Would you say that card is like the heroic card of the sports world, realistically, the sports card market?
I get it's up there with the Wagner. Yeah, the Wagner is like the holy grail, but
like
since
legit,
it does,
like that's it. Like if you have that,
that's like that's the best thing you could possibly have. Gotcha. I mean, there are cards that are worth more money,
right?
But speaking of being iconic, I mean that is the one. But like the mantle is also iconic because so many people sell them, and they're just more out there.
What's like the pop on the highest grade? First of all, what's the highest grade? Do you even know what the highest grade is on that?
I think
mantle?
there are 3 PSA 10s. Yeah.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
So like, say that's what totally blows
For the
my
mantle,
mind.
not the Wagner. Yeah.
Okay, fine. How do you have a card that's now 70 years old, right? 69. Let's call it 69 years old. It's a PSA
Yeah.
10. But I just hit a Justin Herbert 2021 select, brand new fresh out of the pack that gets a 5. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are those real PSA 10s? Like, how does that even happen? Realistically.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I haven't seen photos of all of them,
Yeah.
but I believe some of them might be in like the old holders
Gotcha.
in the beginning of PSA, not like the first year, but
Sure.
not like someone submitted it yesterday. Because to get a 1052 mantle right now,
Yeah.
it would be, it'd be insane.
So
It'd
they've
be
been graded
impossible.
for at least a decade or 2 or 3 even potentially.
Yeah, and they had just been solidified in those cases,
Right.
and no one's ever going to crack it out
Yeah,
to get it in a
yeah.
new label because the risk is just not
You
worth
gotta
it.
imagine, like, I'm assuming paper like disintegrates over time, right? I mean, you would think that even if it sits there and no one touches it,
Yeah.
the lighting or whatever, like gravity, I would imagine a 70-year-old piece of cardboard would kind of have some flaws to it, right?
Yeah, in most cases, except for those 3.
That's so interesting to me. So, other than that 52 mantle, so like everyone at home that has a card collection from your parents or whoever, like 52 mantle, what other cards are there that are considered to be iconic right now that people should be looking for?
51 Bowman mantle, T206 cards of Ty Cobb with the red portrait, the green portrait, the Wagner. Obviously, if anyone has a Wagner, hit me up.
Yeah, quickly. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, for a Wagner, I mean, we could sell it for millions of dollars in 5 minutes. I mean, there are people just lined up for those.
So you have a waiting list on those.
Not like specifically,
Yeah.
but we know people that would buy it for the right price.
How many of those exist that we know of?
I don't know the exact pop report,
Yeah.
but I think there are like maybe 60 known.
So it's
In any
not,
grade.
Yeah, it's not 10 though. It's 60.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
An authentic is still 7 figures.
What do you think of like 1920s cards and below? Like I saw like I think like if you have a 100-year-old baseball, it doesn't matter who the player is. Like obviously, like you have that. Is there going to be always upside value there? Because someone's always going to want like an antique, if you will. I would assume, right?
Yeah. The beginning, the pre-1920s cards,
Yeah.
I mean, when you're thinking of Ruth and all those other iconic
Sure.
Hall of Famers, like like legends like that, it's just, like you saw Collectible had that other Ruth card. I mean, aesthetically, it's not the greatest thing to look at, but it's worth more than like, let's say 2 of those Honus Wagner cards
Sure.
combined.
Sure.
So when you get in the beginning stages of baseball, it's like America's pastime and the history. And when it's a high grade, it's like that card has been around for 100 years and it's an 8 or a 9. It's much more impressive than even a 10 now.
Sure. Yeah. It should be a dime a dozen in today's technology.
And it's like a work of art. So if someone's going to spend $5 million, it's not like buying a house where you put a deposit down and pay it over time.
Right.
If you could spend $5 million at once,
Right.
then
You got some
could
money.
spend $10 million at once.
Sure. So let's just say you have the 52 mantle graded 10, right? So what grade is it almost not worth buying? Like if there's a 3, for example, a grade 3, is that even still worth buying? Does that like theoretically still have to go up over time? Or do you think like there's a point where it's really not that good of an investment? Is it 6? Is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9? Where do you personally see like that fall off growth from? So if you saw last year, people are like, oh, well, this Giannis 10 just sold for $2,000. The 9's only 200. Let's all go buy all the 9s. But as you know, a 10 buyer is different than a 9 buyer in most cases on modern cards. So on that card in particular, where would you have that cutoff be from an straight investment standpoint?
I would say at the like a 3 and higher is the stuff that will go up the most. Authentic, let's say before this whole boom, a authentic mantle was like $8,000. Now authentic could be 15 to 20.
An authentic
Which is
52 mantle.
Yeah,
Not graded though. It's an authentic.
yeah. I mean that's double your money, but it's also an increase of $7,000 to $10,000. But when you look at a 3, it could be a lot more than $7,000 to $10,000 of profit.
Gotcha.
And it's also for that card, the grade doesn't matter as much as the eye appeal.
Coloring.
The centering for that is very important. So a well-centered PSA 4 could sell for more than an off-centered PSA 5.
Gotcha. Now, is that something that you personally look for in a car, like the centering, or what do you personally look for?
I would, centering is huge, especially for that card.
Gotcha.
And then every other card in general, I mean, centering is the thing that you see first. I mean, the corners are important, but the centering, if it's off-centered completely, I mean, that's what you realize without even thinking it.
Interesting. So as we close up the episode, we usually leave the listeners for one thing that you recommend. It could be life-oriented, it could be sports card-oriented, to deposit to their memory banks. When they leave here today, it's like, all right, this weekend, it's a 4th of July weekend, like go home, go into your mother's basement, your father's attic, your grandmother's whatever, and find these cards, right? What's one piece of advice you want to leave the listeners with?
I would say if you have a lot of money invested in the cards and you're getting nervous now that things are going down a little bit, you could either hold it, you could sell it and cut your losses and put the money into something that will make you more money. And even if you take a $2,000 loss, you can have $10,000, and that $10,000 could turn into $50 if you put it in the right places. So I wouldn't really get too down and give up hope on the market, because as quick as it went up and quick as it went down, it can just go right back up again. And I don't want to make people naive, but overnight things can change. So I wouldn't be upset about where we are now. If you have high-end cards, you're in a great spot. If you have low-end cards, sky's the limit.
Interesting. Jordan, I appreciate you coming on the show. Pleasure getting to know you. If anybody has any cards or lots for sale, especially high-end, reach out, tell them to deposit that, and look forward to having you back on.
Me too. Thanks.
Appreciate it.